on a delay now. Am I on a delay?
I don't think so. I think you're good.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Whew. Oh, one thing goes right.
Speaking of which, welcome
Hi.
everybody to the Unready Room. I'm Dan Gunther. With me, as always, Brandi Jackola. How's it going, Brandi?
I'm feeling chipper.
Yay! We're ready to talk Trek. Ready to
Mm-hmm.
make this week a good one. End it on a high note. I always say talking Star Trek with Brandi, always just one of my favorite parts of the week. Not
Same.
just because of Brandi, that's a huge part of it, but also because I get to talk with all of you in the comments. And then, of course, everyone who's watching later. We really appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, Brandi, I have to ask something of you, though,
Okay.
because I want to know, what are your thoughts on Deep Space Nine?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, guys, I think Brandy's a changeling imposter. I don't know how to tell you this. This is that's awkward. Yeah,
and
this.
and folks, that was not rehearsed. I was not prepared for that question, you guys. So
I love how it went. That was fun. That was great. A little bit of impromptu improv. So
I love it. I'm always ready for improv, man. Ha ha ha.
yeah, so obviously Star Trek Picard season 3 episode 5 Imposters, which marks the halfway point through the season, which is wild to think about. It feels like just yesterday this season started.
Mhm.
But yeah, we've got, I think, another really strong entry in this season. My favorite episode is still last week's, but this one is pretty darn good for a number of reasons, which we're going to get into. So yeah, let's jump right into it, I guess.
Yep.
So, Imposters, obviously, as the title implies, we've got that revelation from earlier in the season that changelings have entered the chat. And that's what we've got going on this season. We've got Starfleet infiltrated by changelings. We'll learn in this episode that it's a much bigger problem than we thought, though, because we've got the Titan. She's escaped the nebula. They're taking a break to kind of lick their wounds and make some repairs. And in the meantime, Shaw, ever the eager beaver, has already called Starfleet, and they're on their way to talk with Picard and Riker about what happened. And can we? Okay. First off, we're going to talk about Shaw in this episode because he just
Mhm.
continues to be just an um just a delight, because he's
Absolutely.
so anti our heroes but just so
Mhm.
great. Like the fact that he's chipper, like you say in your name, and like humming a jaunty little tune in the turbo lift as Picard and Riker are going to like the principal's office, basically. I love it.
Yeah, because he can't wait to see their butts handed to them. Because this is all their fault. So I get where he's coming from. I get where he's coming from. However, the alternative would be that Vatic now has Jack for whatever nefarious purpose that they need him for, and the Federation would be destroyed on apparently Frontier Day, I guess. So
Hmm. Well, and I mean, that kind of illustrates what I think is like a really cool multifaceted bit of Shaw in this, because in that early scene he says, as a courtesy, because of the harrowing ordeal we all survived together, I'm going to step outside so the three of you can get your BS story straight. Like raps the table and walks out.
yeah, if I
So I
could
mean,
have
he's
fit all
being
of that as my
sorry.
middle name.
Yes, right?
I was just saying, if I could have fit all of that as my middle name. So
But yeah, I love that, just because I mean he's still kind of being a jerk about it, but at the same time he's giving them a little, because yeah, they saved his ship. they got it into trouble in the first place, but they saved
Mhm.
his ship. It's the chicken and the egg thing that he talks about later. It's like, yeah, they
Mhm.
saved us all, but we would have just been doing our normal mission if you hadn't have come along. So, as far as he knows, given
Yep.
what we learn later, there's other stuff going on. But at this point, given what he knows, he's like, yeah, you came, you disrupted everything, and get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I think he was a little overeager in contacting Starfleet because um, medical had not done a complete autopsy on the changeling first, and I think that he should have waited for that, but I
Mm,
understood why he did what he did.
yeah. Um, this was also a great moment. Would you rather be stated or not stated? Stated. And then I didn't notice this the first time I watched it, but like when he reinstates her, he does like the like knighting a person motion on her shoulders. I don't know why that was just so funny. Just like, I hereby reinstate you.
It's perfect.
I feel like when things are going well and things are normal, and I mean not completely because we know Seven of Nine has her issues with Shaw and has some day-to-day stuff going on that, whatever. But I feel like he could be probably pretty goofy when things are just kind of going on an even keel. He probably has kind of a fun side to him. Maybe not when dealing with ex-Borg, but when dealing with regular crew members. And I feel like he broke through that a little bit with Seven, which is why he's a little jokey here because of what they went through in the previous episode. But yeah, I feel like I've switched from saying I would never want to serve under Shaw to I'd try it out and see what he's like.
You know, I figure it would actually be kinda nice to be under Shaw's command on the Titan because you know that the weird stuff is not gonna happen because he's not
Mhm.
gonna let it happen.
Yeah.
And so it would be nice to be on a ship where you're not accidentally killing people or, they're not actually accidentally, devolving into spiders and salamanders and all of this other stuff, and maybe, you know, there isn't some guy going around just sticking it in every vagina he can find, and, just a captain who cares about safety.
Mhm.
Might be nice.
I just realized that scene in the turbolift where he's like humming that jaunty little tune and Picard's like, "Do you mind?" I was thinking at the time it would have been kind of amusing, and this probably would have been done if it were on lower decks, that he were humming the Star Trek The Next Generation theme. And then like just now in this conversation realized he's not humming the Star Trek The Next Generation theme. He's humming the theme to a rival show in which the ship just goes on a mapping mission, doesn't run into an omnipotent being, doesn't have their crew abducted by pod people, and just goes on a normal mission, completes their mission objectives, checks all the boxes, and reports back to Starfleet that it was a success. That's the weekly
Mhm.
show of the USS Titan, and that's the theme song that he was humming.
Yep. I agree with that. The funny thing is that if you do have a Titan show, weird stuff is gonna find him
Oh,
because
of
how
course.
can it not? Because when weird stuff happens, that's when you get the Shaw gold, man. That's when it
Yeah.
all comes out, and that's what we want.
Oh, I love this. Yeah, Captain Shaw, there's a strange anomaly. Nope, forget it. Pursue current course.
Drop a buoy to
Oh,
mark the location and let's move on.
yeah. And there's pluses and minuses to that. Like if he were in command of Voyager and it got thrown to the other side of the galaxy, he would have set course for the Alpha Quadrant and it would have taken 75 years, but he'd have gotten them home.
Mhm.
just just would have flown there. Oh, there's a strange nebula. Nope. Oh, there's this conflict. No. Just keep going. Nope. Nope. Don't worry about it.
Yep. Our goal is to get home, people.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the one thing I did notice about the things that he's listing off about the chicken and the egg problems that Picard and Riker seem to have, hot drop the saucer section on a planet, uh, broke the broke the prime directive so he could snog a villager on Baku, so Star Trek Insurrection, and then mentioned the anti-time anomaly in the Devron system that almost wiped out all of humanity. What I liked about that was entirely self-reported by Picard, because the wider galaxy and no one outside of him even knew about that. So, that's kind of a testament to his honesty. And as far as anyone else knows, it could have just all been in his head, but Starfleet just takes his word for it.
Well, it's Picard, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that was funny. Now, oh man, I don't know where I want to go with this episode first, because there's so much that just means so much to me in this episode. Let's jump over to Worf and Raffi for now then. Let's leave Picard, Riker, and Shaw in the turbo lift on their way to meet with a certain someone who we'll talk about. And let's pop over to Worf and Raffi. Lots of interesting things in this one. They want to get to Daystrom Station. Their handler, another mysterious handler, but that one we'll know by the end of this episode who that is, tells them no, they can't do that. They don't have official access, but pursue your mission anyway. So they're like, okay, well, we've got to break into Daystrom Station then. And they find this associate of poor Sneed, poor headless Sneed.
Poor Sneed. Yeah, we're all crying over Sneed.
Mm-hmm. This guy named Kryn, this mob boss in sector whatever, district whatever,
District 6.
District 6 of Metalis Prime, who turns out to be a Vulcan crime lord. With a huge blingy IDIC symbol around his neck, which
really big. Well, when I first saw him, I first saw the ears, I'm like, okay, so is he Romulan or is he Vulcan? And then I see his face, and I'm like, Kirk Acevedo, hello, friend, welcome to Star Trek.
That was pretty cool.
And then I forgot about everything else until he was talking about being a Vulcan and logic and stuff like that. So, which is funny because he's obviously a Vatosh Couture, because he's a crime lord. And even goes so far to say that criminal enterprise is logical.
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel like if you asked him, he probably wouldn't say he's Vatosh Couture, because that means Vulcans without logic. But he believes that everything he's doing is within the strictures of logic. And they did something with his character that I like, because at first you're like, are they really trying to justify this by saying a utopia needs crime, therefore it is logical, and would a fully adjusted normal logical Vulcan think these things? But then they did that moment later when there's the death fake out with Worf, and he says Klingon blood, and he smells it. He's like, I hate it. And he's like, okay, he's irrational. There's something, yeah. I like that choice that they put that in there. That it was, and Raffi just kind of looks at him like, interesting character, someone I want to know a lot more about, because it was, to coin a phrase, fascinating.
Well, I think they left him intact. I mean, we don't know for certainty, but it seems like they left him intact.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger fish to fry. Bigger fish to fry. I can speak, really.
Ooh, I like Patrick bringing out the Janeway quote when she's dressing down Tuvok. You can use logic to justify almost anything. That's its power and its flaw. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Good call. Oh, man. But yeah, he was scary, just how casually he, I don't know, just operates and justifies his actions and stuff. So I've got to ask, Raffi with the mobile emitter, that was kind of a fun little gambit there, which the second time I watched it through, it's really obvious. They actually have her turn so that it's centered on the camera and it's in focus mid frame early on. I didn't notice it, of course, the first time, but the second time I was like, oh, it's just right out there. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, they give you all the clues if you're looking, but the first time you watch anything, you're not going to catch
No.
everything because there's going to be so many things grabbing for your attention. And generally, the smaller things tend to fade away until you watch it again. And now you're not so worried about the big stuff because you've already seen that stuff and you're looking for those other smaller things. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I didn't notice it the first time either. So, when that happened, I was like, wait, what? And then, of course,
Yeah.
the second time I was expecting it and I saw the mobile emitter and I thought, yep, they gave me all the clues. I just didn't see them all.
Yeah. Um, one other quick thing with the mobile emitter that I was like, oh, actually, in Voyager, the doctor in the second last episode of the series is disguising himself as various crew members and stuff. And he keeps the mobile emitter like tucked in his boot. So it can be hidden on yourself. It doesn't have to be on the shoulder in plain sight. So they could have been a little smarter about that, but that's okay.
Well, maybe they thought that no one would notice, but or maybe it was part of the plan because it seems like they had already figured out how this was going to go. And
Could
they
be.
planned everything very specifically and accordingly.
Could be. Could be. Oh, also, I want to credit Ricky mentioned this slightly before Patrick. So credit where credit is due as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Hence the
Well
existence
done.
of a Vulcan criminal organization. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay, so yeah, we've got the fight to the death that they have to do. There's the death fake out, they check his pulse. He's definitely dead. They haul him off. And I did like that moment where the lights just kind of start to go down and this Vulcan is like, what is happening? Mm-hmm.
That's a
And
great moment.
yeah, for sure. And Worf says he's mastered the Kalis method of controlling his heart rate. So Kalis, not just the Klingon Messiah, but also can control his heart rate. Cool.
Yeah, good at faking death. Probably a really good skill to have when you're a Messiah, because there's always going to be people who want to kill you when you're a Messiah. So,
yeah, for sure. This is a good point, by the way. Yeah, they can now replicate that technology or recreate it. So, yeah, Moriarty's not going to be happy.
not at all.
Maybe we'll find out.
Well, we saw him in the freaking teaser trailer.
Oh, I know, but maybe we'll find out his thoughts on the mobile emitter thing is what I'm saying.
This is true. Maybe we will. And maybe
Yeah.
we won't. And maybe we will. We don't know.
No. All right. So Worf and Raffi, they get this device that allows them access to Daystrom Station. So more to come on that, I guess, in a future episode, because that's kind of where this story ends here. I did love, it's like, and you will give us that device. That is logical.
Yeah, well, he was probably nauseated by the smell of Klingon blood during that whole scene because, he already said he'd hated it, but he was also scared witless, so there's that too.
Yeah. And I love that, he did the calculations, right? Raffi says, have you factored in the impatience of a terminally, a Klingon who's at death's door here? He needs medical attention right away. And Worf just like grips a little tighter. He's like,
Yep.
All right. Fair enough. No. Yeah. I do hope we see this guy again.
I do too.
Almost, yeah.
I really like Kirk Acevedo. He's good at being a villain. And the first time I actually remember seeing him was in, I want to say season 6, but he was the big bad for that one. And then he was in 12 Monkeys, which explains why, of course, he would show up in Star Trek, because Terry Metalis. And I have no problem with that at all. No problem with that, because he's got this really distinctive voice, and it's interesting the choices he uses with that voice. I like him a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was the first time he started speaking that kind of voice that comes from back here. I was like, "Ooh, this is cool." Vulcanish but crime boss-ish at the same time. It was good.
Yeah, he's definitely good at being a Vulcan. So yeah, let's have more Kryn. Thanks.
Yeah. Star Trek Kryn, yet another spin-off series that people will clamor for out of Picard season 3.
Mm,
No.
probably.
Um all right. So, let's get back to the Titan. Um Picard and Riker are coming off the turbolift with Shaw coming around the corner, and who should appear? And this made me so happy. I love Michelle Forbes. I love the character of Ro Laren. And yeah, Commander Ro Laren, back in Starfleet apparently, is the officer who's going to be conducting their debriefing or their interrogation or whatever the heck this is going to turn out to be. Um, and Picard, the look on Picard's face too. Preemptive Strike is one of my favorite episodes. That look of him sitting in the ready room following Ro's betrayal, and just as he kind of has that 1,000-yard stare and just like is obviously wrestling with all these emotions. Add 30 years to that, of that being unresolved, and that being probably, when he looks back at his record, one of the big unclosed chapters of his
Mm,
career. Like I think back to Eddington betraying Cisco, and how Cisco pursued that vendetta and kind of got a bit of catharsis from that, and that story resolved in a particular way and stuff. He could close the book on that, right?
hmm
Picard has never been able to close the book on that, and in a way much more so than Cisco and Eddington was. There was a very personal connection there because of how Picard had mentored Ro and given her the chance after she got out of prison to come back to Starfleet and all this stuff. um yeah, there's so much to play with here. It's so good. And Michelle Forbes and Patrick Stewart are just both so good in this.
So good. They play off each other so well. They always did. They
Mm-hmm.
always did. And
Absolutely.
frankly, I don't like what they did with Ro in Next Generation. I don't like
Mm.
how she exited the show. I think it was petty. And I just, so I was glad that she got a better ending. But again, stop bringing back these
Yes.
characters, these legacy characters who were not part of the main cast but had recurring roles. Stop doing that and then killing them off. So
Here, here.
we've got Hugh, we've got Icheb, now we've got Ro. Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, absolutely 100%.
So frustrating.
Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that, because that is man, that was really frustrating. As much as I love, it's kind of like, on one hand, it's like, I guess you should be a little grateful, because I didn't think we'd ever see Ro again. I didn't think,
Agreed.
but at the same time, they're giving you that, but they're also taking a lot away, because even if you never saw her again, you can imagine what she's out there doing. Or you can go with the Deep Space Nine relaunch novels that say she had all this other stuff going on, and just imagine that life continuing. Here it's like, great, we get to see Michelle Forbes in the role again, we get to see her playing Ro again. That's amazing, that's awesome, and it lives up to it. Like, she is
Mhm.
terrific. But then at the end, that's it. There's no more with that character, and there never can be. Or, well, it's Star Trek, so whatever, but probably never will be. And that's more or less for sure now. You can't just imagine things, you know. Bruce Gibson, when I was talking to him about this episode, though, he said we never see a body. So I'm like, you're saying there's a chance, but no, there's.
That's my thing. That's my thing. We didn't see a body, but she couldn't transport off the ship.
Mhm.
And because the only place she had to go was the Intrepid, and that would have been death as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so where else would she have gone? How else would she have escaped? I don't see any way for her to be alive, even though, again, we didn't see a body. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Um, and Patrick, this is a good point too. Like the Hugh
agree.
one, I'm still like
I'm so angry.
with
I'm still
I'm
angry.
still, yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things that as we got further from it, I was like, okay, I'm really mad about this having just seen it, but I'm sure with more time as I get further from it, I'll be like, I'll be more okay with it. No, I've just gotten
Nope.
more
Mm-mm.
angry over that. I and it sucks that it happens in the episode Nepenthe, which is like one of my favorite episodes of season 1 because you get to see Riker and Troy and it's kind of this nice little peaceful bit. But then that's happening in the B plot, which makes it one of the hardest episodes for me to rewatch because it's just so infuriating.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's my season 1 rant. But yeah,
Yeah, well, I'm still angry about what they did to Agnes, even though she isn't dead. We'll never see
yeah,
her again on
no,
screen. They might
no.
stick her in a comic or something like that, but I was furious at that, and I
Hmm.
still am, and I will never let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. So that does taint this for sure. That Ro dies at the end. What we get in this episode though is incredible because I love the way the writing and the acting kind of subtly manipulates you throughout the episode because
Mm,
there's there's a point where like I'm never 100% convinced that Ro is a changeling, but they do enough things to introduce enough doubt that you start to entertain the possibility that that might be the case. And then we get that scene in the holodeck, and right
mm,
alongside Picard, you there's the immediate moment where you know this is Ro, and you know that Ro absolutely believes this is Picard. And the you broke my heart and you broke
mhm.
mine was so well done, and everything that leads up to that. Just man, I would love to talk to these two actors about how they prepared for that scene and what they accessed to act in that scene. It's just it's so good. And I know so much of what we've been doing with these live shows this year has been me gushing about stuff, but this is absolutely gush
Same.
worthy television.
It is. It's an amazing scene, and the first time I watched it, I was thinking, "Okay, well, what if she is a changeling?" But I don't think she is because those 2 people
Hmm.
behind her look way more suspicious to me.
Yeah.
But just that whole time they were talking back and forth, and it was like a father arguing with their child,
Hmm.
because basically what Picard did, and I'm not saying this is a judgment or anything like that, but a lot of parents do this, is he basically copied and pasted his values onto Ro and expected her to live by them and not be her own person. He was molding her in his image,
Hmm.
and that's not cool. I'm sorry. That isn't cool. And you have to let people be who they are. You have to let people be who they are. And she was figuring out who she was. And when she made that decision to leave, which again, I feel like it was very petty the way that they got rid of her, but that's my thing. And there have been times in my own life where I had the same thing happen to me, where I was being molded in a specific way and drowning in it, and and feeling like I was dying, and just you have to break out of that, and that's what she did. That's what she did. She honestly did what she felt was best, and he could not grasp that what he thought was best and what she thought was best were 2 different things.
Hmm.
He could not handle that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's it's very real. Like that felt very realistic as far as
Mm,
basically what most conflict comes down to, and especially conflict where there are deep feelings there. Like um Ro had deep feelings for Picard and didn't want to let him down. And Picard had deep feelings about Ro, having mentored her, even with the mistakes both of them made. You know, they both, I think, in their minds had their best interests at heart. And to have that seemingly betrayed is just so hurtful. And then, like I said, 30 years, like he says, he's rehearsed that conversation for 30 years. And it shows. Like, I believe that this is something that every once in a while Picard remembers, thinks about, and it just eats at him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
absolutely. Riker as well in this is interesting, because when you watch Preemptive Strike, and Picard mentions this, the last time you saw her, she held a phaser on you. And yeah, that absolutely happens in that episode. But in that final scene in the ready room, even Riker in that moment says to Picard, I think her biggest regret was that she let you down. And Picard just doesn't say anything. And Riker's like, okay, well, I'm gonna leave now. And
Yep.
he gets that same look on his face in this episode when
Mm.
Picard is talking about Ro, and Riker's like, well, you know, it's been 30 years, and you know, you mentored her and blah blah blah. And Picard's getting all angry, and Riker's getting that look on his face again, like, and then Ro comes in, you better let me do the talking.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And then yeah, there's no breaking through that though. Ro is in
Mm-mm.
that scene, and Riker's like, okay, never mind, goodbye. But I love that. It was all three of these characters just stepping into those same roles 30 years later, which blows my mind. It was really good.
Absolutely. I was, if we got Ro back to give her the material, the lines that they gave her, they're brilliant, and I wish they weren't the last lines she was ever going to speak. I really do.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. Cuz it feels okay. This feels a little bit to me like fridging, all right? And if you don't know what fridging is, let me explain it to you. Fridging is a term that came about from comic books when, in a specific issue of a Green Lantern comic, the bad guy killed Green Lantern's girlfriend and stuffed her in a fridge for him to find. And then, of course, he's devastated and now really motivated to take care of the bad guy. And how many times have we seen kill in order to motivate a man? It
Mm-hmm.
happens a lot. It happens a lot.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like that with Ro for me. It kind of felt a little fridgy.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that for sure. Um, yeah. The earring, I think, was
Mm,
interesting too. And I do like a lot of what they're doing in similar ways to where we see the mobile emitter, even if we don't clock it the first time. There's several shots, and it's pointed out in this comment here, pointed focus on her naked ear in so many shots before Picard called it out, before he kind of goes, wait, and then says something about it. Um, that was interesting, and again adds a little fuel to the, like, is this a changeling? What's going on? Is this
mhm.
something they've messed up? What's happening? And
Oh,
then
I knew they hadn't messed up. I knew
oh,
there
no,
was a
no, no.
reason.
I
But
know,
yeah,
but they're introducing that little bit of seed of
doubt.
possibility, right? And
Yeah.
at the end, when she hands over her earring to Picard, and we realize, like, okay, you know, obviously this has a deeper meaning, and an even deeper meaning, as Riker discovers later, um, which was pretty cool. I like that. One thing that kind of bugged me, and I realized this after, that's not Ro's earring.
Nope, it
Just
sure is not.
that is Kira Nerise's earring. That is the
Uh-huh.
design of Kira's earring, not Ro's. Which I
Or
suspected when I first watched it. And I was like, that looks like Kira's. And then I looked it up, and I was like, oh yeah, no, Rose is really different.
or it's meant to be Kira's. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, because what is Kira really good at? Resistance. I'm just saying. We know she's still around. I mean,
Yeah. That's true. That would
Yeah,
be I mean,
I'm just saying.
I think they just went with the more recognizable design, I think, but I allow for the
We'll see.
possibility that I may be wrong on that. So, yeah.
I feel like everything they do is a deliberate choice, so we'll see.
Mhm.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I if I'm wrong, that's fine. I don't mind being wrong. But if I'm right, you heard it here first.
Yeah. And yeah, DJ Kitty Cat, you're right. The actual earring is neither, like, it's just the design of it is the same design that Kira had. Definitely not the design that Ro had at all, though.
No.
So okay. It's totally a new earring on account of the one we saw her wear before not being a data storage device.
True. True.
All right.
That's fair.
All right.
That's also fair. Also fair. All
Um,
theories welcome.
Kira Neresa's discount resistance outlet. That's where she got it. Kira is in the yeah, there we go.
Except Kira doesn't actually run it. It's a Quark venture that he did without her permission on another planet.
Took her name. Yep. Totally.
And when she found out about it, oh
not
boy,
happy.
was there blood.
Not happy. Oh man, that's funny. Oh, I was gonna say something else and it's completely fled my brain.
I'm
Oh
so
well.
sorry.
No, that was me. I was like, oh, I'll say this, but I'll say this other thing first, and now it's gone. I can't remember. Tristan's right there with you.
I know my Quark, y'all. I
Mhm.
know my Quark.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I remember the one thing I was gonna say is just a little bit petty, which at the end when Picard shows the earring to Riker, and Riker says Rose Bajoran earring. That always just strikes me as a little funny. It's like
Mhm.
oh, Beverly Crusher's human shoe. Like, yeah, we know it's Bajoran. It's fine. Not the biggest complaint in the world, but I just always find it kind of funny.
That is hilarious. Oh man, you know what I'm gonna think of now? Every time I see that damn earring, Beverly Crusher's shoe.
Oh man.
Okay.
We broke Brandi.
I love it when I get broken like that. It's my favorite. Oh my gosh. Oh,
Oh.
thank you. Whew.
Um
Sorry. Mm.
so then yeah, of course we get Ro and her unfortunate death
Orgy.
scene, I guess. Yeah, which is frustrating. I did like that final scene between Ro and Picard where, they have that moment, but I wish that it didn't come at the expense of Ro's life.
Mhm.
It does sit slightly better, like Patrick said, than Hugh's death, but it's still, I feel like they could have done something different. Anything different. Anyway.
I'm sorry. TJ's making me laugh more. The funny thing is that I'm really into electronic and dark ambient music. That's why it's extra funny. Because that's exactly oh, I'm dying. I'm dying. Oh, in the best way. Oh, this is excellent. Oh, thank you, TJ. Thank you.
Oh.
Whew.
So yeah, I guess that's about it with Ro.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. We do get like we said, all the intelligence information is on that earring, and there's an incoming message and it's from Worf. So we get that nice reunion between Worf, Picard, and Riker there. underscored by the fact that Ro is gone now, of course. And Worf says, "Wait, where's Commander Ro?" And they're like, "Hmm." So I love that Worf knew that Ro was his handler, and it makes me want to go back and see what that working relationship was like. I would have really loved to have seen that. That would have been interesting. But
Agree, which is interesting for me because so Worf knew that Ro was his handler, but Raffi didn't know that Worf was her handler. Why?
I guess just you go further up the line. I guess I don't know.
So that makes Raffi feel really good. I mean, I keep saying
Nah.
Raffi. It's Raffi. It's Raffi. But anyway, sorry, my nose is dripping now from laughing too much. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. We're all
I
fine.
guess it wouldn't have been outside the realm of possibility that Raffi, and I mean Raffi did eventually find out that Worf was her handler, and she had requested face to face. So that was something
That was a Worf
happened.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Just interesting why he decided to keep his identity secret, but Ro didn't. Just interesting.
Yeah. So I think we have to talk about Jack, because that's the other big thing happening in this episode. And that's where we start our episode, is this kind of waking nightmare, waking dream that he's having, being on the bridge and taking out the crew, and the one officer, the Hellion officer, Esmar, I think that's her name, saying, "I know who you really are," or something like that. And
I think she says, "I know what you really are," but I could be wrong.
Yeah. So what the heck is going on with Jack? We're seeing more and more that door is more open in his mind, and all this stuff's happening. We have kind of a similar thing in the transporter room later, where he's watching the crew beam off and things get all weird again, and he imagines shooting the transporter operator, and certain things that he's seen seem to be coming true as well, which is a little scary. He's given that the red Starfleet uniform by Seven to kind of blend in, and that's what he saw himself in the visions. And then by the end we have those 4 changelings come after him, and he kind of switches on this thing in his head and takes them all out. And according to the conversation later with his mom, he didn't know they were changelings, and he decides to confide in her and says, "I think something's really wrong with me." So something's going on. I love that he isn't completely keeping it to himself now. He's having that conversation with Dr. Crusher, that obviously he recognizes that something's wrong. He's not like the zombie bite victim who's going to keep it hidden until the very last minute. Like, he's trying to figure out what's happening, which I like. I like that little change in the trope, which is good.
I do too, but it should have happened a couple episodes ago. Because honestly, what is it about men in general? Because this is true of many men that I have known in my life, that when they feel like something's wrong, they just, compartmentalize it and go on as normal until they can't ignore it anymore. And that's how I lost
I would argue, but guilty.
Yeah. That's how I lost my dad to cancer, y'all.
Oh,
so
geez,
men,
I'm so sorry.
If something is wrong, do something about it. Reach out. Don't just go on like it's normal. Find out what it is. You could be saving your own life. So that was something that I feel very strongly about with Jack. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Your mom's a doctor. You know better than this. So, but here's the weird thing. Okay, so in the subtitles, when watching this episode and when he's hearing that female voice, the subtitles say it's Beverly's voice. What the hell does that mean?
Okay. See, I forgot to turn on the subtitles this week. I have not watched it with the subtitles, but when I just watched it last night in preparation for this, in that scene, I was like, is that Beverly's voice? I'm really glad to have that confirmed, because I was like, this
Mhm.
really sounds like Beverly. Okay, cool. Interesting. Interesting.
I'm so confused. The thing that I'm worried about is that Jack is a changeling, but how would that have happened, and how would it have been unnoticeable by his mother? So maybe it's not that he's a changeling, maybe he has oh. Oh, I think somebody else also mentioned this in the chat a while ago. Does he have Borg DNA because he's the son of Picard and Picard
Mm.
still has stuff floating around in there?
I've seen that. Yeah,
But
I
even
think
so, would that be causing this? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. So Seal 0626 has been making some really great comments. So I'm going to share a few of them. So kind of what you were talking about
Mm.
there, Borg nanites activated by his near-death experience. It's happened to him before as a child. Crusher talks about him
Mm.
having nightmares when he was a child. I mean,
Okay.
that's not a throwaway line, right? Like, there's a
No.
reason that was brought up.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And he
Um,
didn't remember having those nightmares. Now, I remember every nightmare I had as a child.
oh, I remember I
So,
had so many terrible nightmares as a kid. I really remember them.
agreed. I had the same problem, just the weirdest, wrong stuff you can imagine. My brain,
Mhm.
even as a child, was super messed up, so that's fun. But yeah,
Me
I just
too.
thought it was a big red flag to me that he didn't remember those dreams, those nightmares from when he
Mhm.
was a kid.
So that
So,
could be whatever's in control of him here, because this next comment, I think, is really good too. The tears in Jack's eyes as he's killing everyone in his nightmare are very telling to me. He's not in control of his body when that happens. And I think that was also true when it happened for real. So um when he's killing the changelings as well, I think he's not in control. I absolutely agree with this comment. And that might relate to when he was a kid not remembering those nightmares, because he was also not in control at that time during
mm,
that period or
okay,
something. Maybe. I don't know.
sure. That's a good theory.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously something in him is triggering self-preservation.
Mhm.
And whether that's for good or ill, I can't say. It seems to me like whatever is trying to preserve him and keep him alive is it's connected to everything else. It's connected to what's going on in his head. It's connected to this faction of changelings that broke off and are trying to destroy the Federation. It's connected to the Great Link. I don't know how. I don't know how yet. I don't have
Mhm.
enough information, but it's all connected, because that voice saying connect the branches, that also is very purposeful. That's not just a throwaway line.
Yeah.
So,
And I also like this comment, which makes sense too. So maybe it's not Beverly in his
mm,
it's just using her voice the same way it used Seven's face in the
I like
earlier.
that. I like that.
I kind of like that. That
Yeah.
makes sense to me, cuz yeah, and I mean, maybe there's something else going on, but I can't figure out what that would mean if it
Mhm.
actually were. Is the Crusher we've been seeing not actually Beverly? That doesn't make sense for a number of reasons. Um
Unless it was a changeling from the Great Link that took over for Beverly, and Beverly's being held somewhere else but not being harmed. Anyway, it's a whole thing. My brain went down a rabbit hole with that whole thing.
yeah, I mean, that would make sense if we didn't have what I think is a very meaningful, real conversation between Beverly and Jean-Luc. And
Mhm.
if that turns out not to have been Beverly, like, that loses a lot of meaning there. And I don't know. Yeah.
Or a changeling on the ship that is a counter changeling to the terrorist changelings took over Beverly and has got her
At some point
locked
after.
in somebody's quarters. Yeah. I
That
don't
could
know.
be.
I don't know. I'm just throwing out wild theories, y'all.
Star Trek does like to replace its doctors with changelings. I will say
It
that.
really does. It really, really does.
Spoilers for Deep
Here,
Space Nine.
here, here. Oh, Mhm.
And that was
Yeah.
the other thing that popped into my head. Like, she's the one doing the autopsy and revealing this information about the changelings. If she were a changeling at that point, I feel like she wouldn't want to reveal that information, unless, like you say, she's one of the good changelings from Odo's side of the Great Lake.
Yeah. That's
That
what
would be
I
kind
was
of cool.
thinking.
Yeah.
So she's
So
she's trying to, if she is a changeling, she's trying to shine a light on what these terrorist changelings are doing, what this faction is doing. So
she's actually Odo. No. Okay. Sorry.
oh, they wouldn't be able to do that though, would they?
Probably not. Probably
My
not.
heart. My heart.
Who would have thought that, like, this season of Star Trek Picard, before it started, one of the fan theories that we would have played with is Dr. Crusher is actually Odo. Like,
That
what?
would have never been on my list of weird stuff to happen in season 3.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Oh my god. Tristan. I love a good pun. Oh my god. Oh man.
Oh, oh, to
That
have
is
this
so good.
happen twice in one show is just, I'm exhausted.
Oh, that is so good. um
Oh,
on that note, Brandy, anything we haven't talked about? Any final thoughts that you
oh.
have for this episode, and uh, for our friends in the chat as well? Any rating that you'd like to give the episode?
Right. I loved seeing Shaw back in the captain's chair, so that
Yes.
was fun. And I love his disbelief even at the end, when Riker's like, "Okay, like,
Security.
hello, trust your eyes, dude. Come on."
Yeah.
And when he finally makes that turn, is like, "Okay, get us out of here." And they have to run. And it took a lot of evidence, and I understand that because of everything that Shaw has been through since Riker and Picard came aboard. But he did recognize the danger of the situation, and again, he wants to protect his crew. And so he does what is necessary to do that. Boy, I was not sure they were going to warp away in time for those torpedoes not to hit them. But anyway, this episode I really enjoyed this episode. It was really good to see Ro again, even though they fridged her. And I'm gonna give this. There's so many ways I can go about this, but I think I'm gonna, go a different way. I'm gonna give this one big Kirk Acevedo because Kryn is memorable.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely memorable turn there. That was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I still think last episode is the high watermark for the season, and interestingly, it's Shaw that makes it that. This
mm,
episode though has so much going for it. Shaw is terrific. Michelle Forbes as Ro is someone that, like, the first season of TNG that I watched live as it aired was season 5. So Ro
you're
is
spearing. Sorry.
um Ro was kind of a formative character for me for my Star Trek fandom, right? My TNG fandom anyway. Um
Mm,
and I always really liked that character. As much as she ruffled the feathers of everybody, I think is probably one of the main reasons I liked her. And to see her come to an end in this episode does knock a little bit off for me. It leaves a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth for sure. But at the same time, again, I never ever thought we'd see the character again ever, on screen. And so for that, I'm so happy to have more Michelle Forbes as Ro. Over the years, we got some Admiral Kane. We got her like in a random episode of Lost. She's on True Blood for a few episodes. So I was like, I could see Michelle Forbes in different places from time to time, and that was cool. But I never got to see Ro again until now. So that's always going to make me excited. The fact that it advances the story so much, and then by the end of the episode, we've got the Titan on the run, a la the Discovery in season 2. I got some real season 2 vibes there, where Spock is on the bridge telling Pike, "We must run," and they have to take the Discovery and go to Talos 4 and all this stuff. And or that's after Talos 4. They have to leave Talos 4 and go on the run from Section 31 in Starfleet. I liked that energy in Discovery season 2, and I'm feeling that at the end of this. A little bit by this point, kind of becoming tropish, but the fact that Shaw is the captain of the ship that's going on the run makes me really excited for where this will go, because that is way outside his comfort zone. And that makes me happy. I feel like we're going to see some more great Shaw. And I feel like he's going to step up and he's going to surprise a lot of people. In a way that's not surprising, because that's how character arcs go. But it's going to be fun to watch. And I'm really excited for that. So
me too.
Yeah, I'm going to give it, oh my goodness. I'm going to give it one really angry looking starship, because the Intrepid,
Right.
I didn't know starships could have moods, but that
They
ship
do.
had a mood.
A big mood, especially after that nacelle blew up. Then that ship was like, "Oh hell no! You did not just blow up my nacelle, my port nacelle."
Yep. So that was great.
Yes.
And David Henderson's here. 10 out of 10 human shapes. Yep. That was good. So yeah, great episode. I'm really excited for where this is going. This is a good halfway point. Like, it feels like the show has switched gears, which I feel like a good midpoint. That's kind of what the story should be doing. And I'm really excited for what's to come next. So yeah, we'll be back next week to talk about the episode The Bounty, which what could that be? Interesting. Brandi, what are you up to in the world of Star Trek that people can consume and enjoy?
I don't have much to consume that's new except for this show. So, yeah, but you can follow me on Twitter at Brandywine12 or on Mastodon at Brandywine at ravenation.club. I wrote it down this time. And but I don't actually post a whole lot on social media. I just lurk a lot of the time, and that's okay. But if there's something new going on as far as stuff I'm doing, then you'll find it on one of those two or both places.
Excellent. Yeah, and you can find me, of course, here. I'm kind of getting back into the swing of making videos again on a fairly regular basis. This week's might be a little later than usual, but I'm working on it. And of course, the Positively Trek podcast. We just had a really great episode where we had Jessie Earle on to talk about a really cool project that she's doing with the Star Trek science advisor, Dr. Erin McDonald. So check out that episode. And yeah, it's a short film they're going to be doing that's going to premiere on Nebula sometime late this year, early next year. Really, really cool, really exciting. They're both amazing, awesome people. I can't wait to see what they've come up with. And yeah, other episodes, we're doing book club episodes and all that stuff. Twitter at Kurtrats, Mastodon at Kurtrats at mstdn.ca. And yeah, that's what's going on with me. So thank you all so much for tuning in this week. We'll see you again next week. And 2 Brandi breaks in an episode. We'll see if we can top that next week.
Yeah, let's try, because I need good belly laughs, y'all. I do.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Live long and prosper.
Live logs and proper.